All right, everybody ready? So this is lesson 8. Lesson 8, Mark chapter 14. I just want to remind you that we're in that last week, that Jesus and the disciples are in Jerusalem, and we're heading toward the cross. So we're in that last week of his ministry. And I want to just take us back to a second to chapter 12, because it kind of sets the stage for how 14 begins. And if you recall that in chapter 12, the Pharisees were trying to trap him. Remember that? They questioned, who gave you this authority? And then they sent people to ask him questions. They sent different people to ask questions, trying to trap him. Why were they trying to trap him? What's their goal? In order to kill him. Okay, so that's where they are. They're trying to figure out how to kill him because he's a threat. He's a threat to them. He's a threat to their leadership, to their rulership. He's a threat because they don't believe who he is. Okay, so they're trying to trap him. So do you remember some of the things that they said in chapter 12 about, what were the questions they asked him?
If a woman died, if a woman's husband dies,
Yeah.
and then the brother died, it's about eternal life.
Right, about the 7 brothers all married her, and whose wife would she be in heaven, and the resurrection. What was the funny thing about that? Who was asking that question? Right, the Sadducees, and they didn't believe in the resurrection, but they're asking him a question about resurrection. So, but every chance they had to test him, he passed the test, and so they couldn't trap him. So now that brings us to chapter 14, and how does chapter 14 start? What's the first verse? When is this happening, and who is involved in this?
Before the Passover?
Okay. Right before the Passover. How many days? 2 days before the Passover. So we're in that final week, right? Mm-hmm. And who's involved in this? What are they seeking to do?
Chief priest and the scribes.
The chief priests, the scribes,
They're trying to arrest Jesus by stealth and kill him.
trying to arrest him by stealth and kill him. Okay. And verse 2 says, for they said what? Not during the feast. Okay, lest there be an uproar from the people. So, what do you know about why is that a problem for them that they can't arrest him during the feast?
It's High Holy Day, so they will not supposed to be doing work. There will be a mass of people, so Jesus could even have support from his Galilee tribe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And all around Galilee and Capernaum and that. So that could be a problem for them, I would think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. And there was another reason, and they were doing the wrong thing, and they didn't want to get caught.
Yeah, they're doing the wrong thing. They don't want to get caught. But when you say there's a mass of people, why is there a mass of people? What's about to happen? What's the high holy feast?
The Passover.
The Passover, okay? Now, what did you learn about the Passover?
Well, the word Passover was because the destroyer would pass over the doors that had the blood that they took from the year-old male lamb or goat that didn't have a defect. And when they slaughtered it, they put the blood over the doorpost so that the destroyer passed out. That goes back to when they were in Egypt.
Goes back to when they were in Egypt. So that's when Passover started, right? So what you're talking about, Kirill, is that in Egypt, here they are in Egypt, right? And they're slaves in Egypt. And then the Passover was when they were coming out, right?
Out from slavery.
Out from slavery. So they were to take the lamb and kill it and do what? Put the blood on the doorpost of their house. For what purpose?
So when God, the firstborn wouldn't die.
So the death angel, because he said, I'm going to send an angel, and he will, when he sees that blood, he will pass over and you will be saved. You and your household will be saved, right? And so then he took them out of Egypt to take them where?
Into the promised
Okay, into the promised land.
He who began a good work.
Yeah, yeah. Here's an interesting, it's not in your lesson, but I just want to read to you this in chapter 12 of Exodus about the Passover, because it says in verse 1, now the Lord said to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, okay, while they're in Egypt, this month shall be the beginning of months for you. It is to be the first month of the year to you. Okay, so this is going to be, you're in slaves here, you're in slavery in Egypt. Now this Passover that you are about to celebrate is going to be the first month of the year for you. You're starting a whole new life. You're starting a whole new year, and Passover represents that first month, because once they come out, they're saved and they're out of slavery and they're heading toward the promised land. So life starts new for them, right? Okay?
So it really wasn't the first month of the year, but they're making it the first.
Right. It wasn't the first month. It was like March, April, okay, which now becomes the first month in the Jewish calendar, because they were getting a new start out of slavery. Okay. So just think about that.
It's kind of how, like, the Sabbath was on Saturday, but since Jesus rose on the third day, now we celebrate it on Sunday.
We celebrate it on Sunday. So he was crucified on Friday, and we celebrate on Sunday. Yeah. So this is the basics of the Passover. So now this is, and what else do you learn about this Passover? When he instituted that, what did he say? How often do they do it? Every year, indefinitely, right? For every generation. So this was back in Egypt, and now here we are in chapter 14 saying what? It's 2 days before the Passover. So they're still at this point celebrating this Passover when God brought them out of Egypt, with the blood of a lamb. Okay. So this was an ordinance. If you looked at the cross references, how many times a year do people have to come to the temple?
3, I just made that number up to sound like I know it.
3? Okay, well, it was good because there were 3. Yes. There were 3 times, and that was in your homework, that 3 different times when they came to...
Oh, I did it in my homework?
Yeah, you did it. Yeah. From Deuteronomy 16, when everyone had to come to the temple, one of the 3 feasts. So
That's when people would come from everywhere.
from everywhere, right? They come from
So,
everywhere.
Like, it would be like Super Bowl Sunday somewhere. Like
Yes.
the town would just be...
Exactly. The town was going to be just bulging with people. One of the commentaries I looked at said possibly 5 times the population of Jerusalem during Passover. Okay. Which is significant, because why are they afraid? Why are the Pharisees afraid to arrest him during the feast?
Lest there be an uproar
From the people, okay? So you have to imagine there are so many people in Jerusalem, and they don't want to cause, and there were riots that sometimes happen just when there were so many people in the city, so there's usually a lot of disturbances. The Roman soldiers were on high alert.
It's like Disney World at Easter break.
Yeah, exactly. So think about that. So when they say, we don't want to arrest him during the feast because we're afraid of the people, okay, they had good reason to be afraid. So they're trying to arrest him by stealth, okay, in order to kill him.
What does that word mean then?
By stealth, like secretly, quietly, under the radar, so that nobody is going to start a riot about this. So they didn't want to do it during the feast. Anything else that you saw about the Passover before we move on?
This is the last we're going to talk about?
This is what?
The last we're going to talk about? No, they're going to go.
We're going to get to it. Yeah, because they're going to have the Passover meal, right? Okay? All right. So that's the setting. This is the setting. This is what they're doing. They're celebrating this Passover in Jesus' time now. So the crowds are there. Now, verse 3 through 9, what is the event that happens? 3 through 11, actually. Where are they, first of all? Where are they? Okay. They're in the house of Simon. They're in what city? Bethany, okay? And if you looked at your map, you'll see Bethany is outside of Jerusalem, just outside. So they are, here it is. So here's Jerusalem, and here's Bethany. So they're right there, because it's Passover time, and everybody's there. And so they're staying in the house of Simon, outside the city of Jerusalem. Okay, and then what's happening in that house? Okay.
Washes Jesus' feet with expensive oil.
Okay.
And Judas kind of
Yeah.
comment.
Yeah, we want to look at Judas versus this woman, okay, and how what were their actions, okay? So the woman, what did she do? She poured the oil, she anointed him, poured the oil, and what do we know about that oil? Very expensive oil.
So she was sacrificing her wealth to Jesus. Judas was sacrificing Jesus for wealth.
Oh, good. That's good. She was
I didn't even look that up. I just.
Oh my goodness. You get a star, and it's her birthday today. So, right, wisdom abounds there. So, she was sacrificing her wealth for Jesus, and Judas was sacrificing Jesus for wealth. Yeah. Enough said, right? Yeah.
And which of those was a wasted experience?
Yeah. Yeah. What did Jesus say about what she did? It was a beautiful thing.
The story will be told forever,
Mhm.
wherever the gospel's preached.
Hmm. Yeah, her story will be
What she did
right.
for him.
Right.
She anointed his body for burial.
Yeah. She is anointing his body for burial. Is he dead yet? No. So, see, he's looking forward and he's saying, she is anointing my body for burial. This is,
Do you think she really knew what she was doing?
do you think she really knew what she was doing?
I don't think so at the time. I feel like God does that to a lot to us, like now, where we'll go through something in life we don't know at the moment.
Yeah.
And then know later.
We look back, yeah.
But it was an act of worship for her.
Definitely an act of worship for her. She obviously knew who he was, right? And has he been telling them that he was going to Jerusalem and what would happen to him there?
Yes.
Okay, and he would be killed, and on the third day he would be resurrected. So do they actually comprehend it to the point where she's saying, I'm anointing you for burial? Probably not. But she was worshiping him in that way.
Ointment have a smell to it?
Does it have what?
A smell to it?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. So you could still have had that on him while he was being beaten.
Yeah. Because once you open that alabaster jar, take the lid off, then the aroma comes out, and it said that the oil has to be used immediately, right then. So, yeah. And as it turns out, I mean, he was not anointed after his burial that we know of, because the women came to the tomb to anoint him. Okay. So this anointing happened before. But it definitely is a contrast to what we see with Judas. And the disciples were like, why did she spend that? She could have sold that and helped so many people. Okay, but he's like, no, it was a beautiful thing. And you'll have that opportunity again, but not with me. That's what he's saying, right?
And it wasn't just Judas, it was some.
Yeah, right. Right.
Yeah, it says they were.
They. Yeah, they. Judas wasn't alone in that. But Judas was the one who then left. And what did he do?
Went to the chief priest.
Yeah, he went to the chief priest. Think about this. He went to the chief priest, and what does he offer to do? Betray Jesus, okay? Whoa. We can't arrest him because of the crowds, right? But then Judas shows up and says, I can take you to him.
Do you think they were seeking somebody, or is this just like he just wanted it? Like
Do I think they were seeking?
somebody to like they, you know, word on the street of, yeah, definitely that. Like that somebody, they're looking for somebody to do that, or like this is just, you know, he'd had enough.
Well, there is, in John, it says that the Pharisees had put out a notice, a proclamation, if anybody knows where Jesus is, to tell us. Okay, so there's like a reward poster up, and maybe Judas was responding to that. He's obviously something has triggered this. So, but the Pharisees are looking for somebody to tell them where Jesus is. But Judas comes right to their door and says, I'll do this. I can take you to him. I can take you to him. So, of course, they're happy. Because they're going to wait till after the feast, but here he comes.
I feel like we know it's a prophecy that's going to happen, but it's almost like there's something, like you said, that triggered that washed in Judah, because he's sitting there, there's that woman spending all that money, there's all that thing happening. It's like jealousy or something triggered him to just like all of a sudden just get up and
Yeah,
and
maybe,
betray him.
yeah, I'm
So,
saying now.
Judas was the one thing the Messiah has to come and liberate from the Romans.
Right.
So probably he was thinking what he's doing, waiting.
Right. So,
Say, that's didn't work. This
Yeah.
doesn't work, so he's not.
yeah, that's a good point, because they all expected him to come and be the ruler, to liberate them from Rome. But this is not what he's been teaching them all along, right? It's not that way. It's not that way. It's upside down. Okay? But you're right. Judas could have been like, okay, when is this going to happen? And I don't see it happening, and that's money thing. So, I mean, we don't really know. You can speculate about it, but you can see where he might have just bit this trigger to go. But he goes to the chief priest and says, I'll take you to him. I'll take you to him. And then it says in verse 11, and he sought an opportunity to betray him. So he sought an opportunity to betray him. So now we're moving into the Passover, verse 12 through 16. Well, let's just talk about 12 through 21 as a whole, okay? Because they're preparing for the Passover. And where are they having the Passover? Where are they going to celebrate it? Okay, in an upper room. So the Passover has to be celebrated within the city walls of Jerusalem. And where were they? They were in Bethany, right? So they had to come into the city, so they had to find a place where they could celebrate the Passover. Because it has to be within the walls of Jerusalem. So they do have a place reserved for them, and when they come, in verse 17, they're celebrating the Passover, and what takes place in that upper room? In that upper room, when they are celebrating, they're reclining at the table, celebrating this. This is what they're celebrating. Okay? So what happens in that room? What?
The Last Supper.
Okay, the Last Supper. And while they're eating it, while they're sharing together, what does he say?
Jesus says, well, he pretty much identifies
Okay? Somebody is going to betray me. Somebody at this table is going to betray me. The one dipping.
I don't know if they
Okay.
stopped at that. I don't know if they would look to see at that point.
Yeah, yeah. And the fact it was like one of you that's eating with me, which was hospitality was huge there. So if you're sitting down with a meal with someone, that's a very close relationship, and then to be betrayed by that. So he says, one of you will. And then what was their response? Is it me?
Which is kind of sad.
We're all capable.
Okay, kind of sad.
You said, are you going to betray your friend? I would be like, no.
Yeah,
I would be like, oh, am I? Like, it's sad.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I think, I feel like that's almost a better, like, humble response, but it's an honest self-examination, not, because if I said, no, not I, that'd be kind of,
Yeah,
Like Peter.
yeah.
Kinda like Peter.
Like Peter.
because I'm perfect.
Yeah.
But they know that they're sinners,
Mhm.
there's a chance.
Hmm. Yeah,
And I think the question leads them to guess too, because they know Jesus have that thing, know them,
Mhm.
Jesus knows. So it's like that question, like, he knows who, but I wonder, is it me?
Yeah, yeah.
It's like that.
yeah.
Because I'm sure they know Jesus already know who. So they are trying to guess.
Hmm.
I also thought it was interesting that Satan didn't enter Judas until he took the bread.
Okay.
So up until that point, had he not committed a sin, was he still considered a follower of Jesus? Or, because who made him betray Jesus? Wouldn't it have been Satan? So why did Satan not enter him until he took the bread? Was that like a point of no return? Was he no longer, up until that point,
Okay.
could he have been redeemed? And did he reach a point where he's no longer redeemable?
This is
Do we
always-
reach that point in
Yeah,
life?
this is always one of those parts in the story where you're like, okay, everybody has to play a role, and that
Right.
was the role that Judas had at that moment. And it's sad because you go to the end and you want to know.
Hmm.
I try not to get myself too involved in that because then I go, okay, I don't know what happened between God and Judas right before. I don't know.
Right.
But
Right.
it's very difficult to accept that that happened. We understand that God is just, but it's very difficult to understand that, someone had that role to play in this.
Hmm.
I do see in this, it's almost as if Jesus is saying, you don't have to do this. God purposes will still somehow be,
Hmm.
it's almost like it's more opportunity for Judas to see what he's doing. And at each turn, he chooses.
Hmm. Yeah, this is one of the struggles of Scripture altogether. Is like God is sovereign, but man is responsible. Okay, and the fact that Judas, and I looked at two different Gospels. This one says that once he took the bread, then Satan entered him. Okay, and another one, I think it's John, that says Satan had put it in his head to do this, and then he did it. So there's this thing about, for us, like Satan can tempt us to do things, but then we have to choose to do it. Okay, right? So we have that choice to do it or not to do it.
I always wondered how much of it was also him being drawn away by his own lust because of the money.
Hmm. Right.
And so that was so enticing to him at the
Hmm.
time. For-
Yeah. Yeah. Because
I think they also paint a little bit of picture of him that, like, his heart wasn't always, his heart wasn't there. Like,
always fully devoted. Right.
because of, like, calling out. Like, was he upset because she broke the vessel because it would feed other people, or because that was money in his pocket?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think there's some indication, I don't think John thought very highly of him. at all. I mean, he saw who he was.
Yeah.
But I think there's another aspect, I think, where he was an outsider in that group. One of the outsiders. Like, he wasn't, I don't think he was a Galilean.
He wasn't a Galilean like the rest of them were.
So he was not.
Yeah.
Which has nothing to do
Right.
with what choices
There are a lot
he
of
made, but
dynamics, you know,
Yeah.
but and also you see what happened after he found out what he did, and he tried to give the money back. So there was this, you know, yeah, yeah,
shame.
right,
Yeah.
right,
Sorry.
right,
And then what you do is
right. So I mean, at this moment that he does it, he doesn't see the consequences, but whatever motivated him, he's going forward with it. And it is going to fulfill the plan that God has for the crucifixion. So he,
I don't understand why when he does feel bad and he gives the money back, or, you know, why he's still down, you know, after he has this, you know, guilt, or he realizes how stupid it was.
yeah, and
He killed himself, though.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he did.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, he went out and killed himself. You know,
yeah.
he
Yeah.
still missed the point.
Yeah.
Peter could have gone out and killed himself.
right, right.
Just looking in the wrong spot.
What was his profession? What was his profession? Judas. Yeah, but
But he's not saved, right? I mean, or that's what Scripture leads us to believe, that guilt feeling he had and wanting to give the money back didn't save him.
that's. I mean, that's
We don't know.
right. We don't know.
Okay.
Right.
So
We
maybe
don't.
it's
We
not.
don't
So
know.
He was in turmoil.
Right. Right.
They
So.
say he was born, that's Google.
Oh, Google. We got it. Google's gonna give it to us.
Google's
Yeah.
gonna give us the answer. Say he was in Galilee, from Galilee, he was from the south.
South Park.
Yeah, and then the land where he was born, it was the Edomites. They were
Oh, the
descendants of
Edomites.
Esau,
Yeah.
and the Ishmael,
Mhm.
descendants of Ishmael, and you know what happened with
Right,
Ishmael
right.
and Esau.
So.
So kind of
Yeah.
outlet that you say.
Yeah.
He's not like this.
Yeah. There's a lot of things going on with Judas. Okay, but the fact is, he was used to get to the point of Jesus' arrest. Okay, so we need to get there.
Is there something in Scripture from your study where it says God did this, but in effect it's like God allowed this? Like there's nothing out of God's knowledge.
Right.
It's not that he went, I think I'll take
Right. Right.
Judas, but the way we read it in our modern day is like, well, God made him evil and that he had no choice. Or is it that God knew? Because even in this, Jesus is trying to make a statement, giving him another opportunity,
Yeah.
you know. Or is it that Jesus really knew Judas's heart and he knew he still isn't making the right choices. He's still not fully,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's not that God just intentionally intended for Judas to be lost.
Right, because we know in all of Scripture that he says he desires that everyone would be saved.
Right.
Well, and because like Judas got to be with Jesus all that time, so like I feel like Jesus wasn't like holding it against him. Like let's say like Jesus knew ahead of time all the whole time that Judas was going to betray him.
Yeah.
He didn't change.
He didn't kick him out.
Yeah.
Right,
He
right,
wasn't like, oh,
right.
you're not even invited. Like,
Right, you're not invited to this Passover. Yes, right. Always treated him the same, even to the end there. Yeah. So, what else happened in this Passover meal before we move on?
Oh, yeah.
When they have the bread and the wine, what happens? What does he say to them? This is my body. Okay, the bread represents my body. What about the wine? Okay, it's my blood. And what does he say about the blood? It's the blood of the covenant. Okay, and it represents his blood, right? So what are we saying? Because he said, this is the blood of the covenant poured out for you, right? Poured out for you. And I will not drink of it again. I will not celebrate a Passover again until we celebrate in heaven. Is that what he's saying? So here you have him. This is like the day that he's going to be crucified. And he's saying to them,
Within 24 hours.
yeah, this is not good. Sorry. Sorry.
Very nice.
Thank you. He's got a short arm. Sorry. So what's happened here is he's saying, this is the blood that's going to be poured out for you. How's that going to happen? Right there. Okay. So when he is nailed to the cross, his blood,
Is that our doorpost?
That's my favorite, that's my
yeah.
It was last year, right when he was sitting.
Yeah. So what happens? Yeah. See, where are we? On this side of the cross. Slaves to sin, right? And how do we get out of that slavery? Just like this. The blood. So he puts the blood on the cross. And then when we accept that, then the death passes over us. Right? Death passes over. And where are we going? Yeah. So there's the Old Testament to the New Testament. This is happening right there in that upper room when he is eating this Passover meal. He is saying, there's a new covenant. What did you learn about this new covenant? What did you learn about it? Page 94? Yes, page 94.
I will forgive their wickedness and will remember their sins no more.
I will forgive, their wickedness. I will remember their sins no more.
A new heart.
A new heart, Jeremiah. I will give them a new heart. And what does he say he will write on their heart?
I will put my law in their minds and write it on their hearts.
Right.
And they will all know me. So
Yeah.
none of us have an excuse.
So from in the old way, where was the law written? On the tablets. And they had the sacrificial system, right? That they had for forgiveness of sins. Now he says, I'm going to make a new covenant and I will write it on their hearts. Okay.
In my blood.
Yeah, in my blood. So that very moment in that room changed from the old covenant to the new. Just like that. Yeah. So
Yeah, I don't think they got it.
no, of course they didn't get it. Of course they didn't get it. It's just another Passover, okay? But
It took me a long time to get.
yeah, it took me a long time to get it. Yeah. But this is what's happening in that room. And he says, is this where he says that he'll die, but then he will meet them in Galilee?
After I've been raised, I'll meet you in Galilee.
Yeah, after I have been raised, I'll meet you in Galilee. Okay. Yeah. So they're not seeing that. They're not seeing beyond they're not really seeing his death yet, right?
That picture's so neat, because I know you can put the new one on top of the old one.
Mhm.
It's kind of like it was and is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those mind-blowing things,
Yeah.
right? But that God was setting them up from this point, from Egypt, setting them up, saying, you have a new life. And this Passover is the first month of your new year, of your life. And so you're saved, you're saved from death. And you're on your way to the promised land. And this is, when you are saved, it's a new life. It's a new beginning. So Passover is new for you. It's a new life for you. It's pretty huge what happened in that upper room. But they don't get it yet, but we do, because we see it right here, right? Yeah. Oh my goodness, we always run out of time. But let's just go to the garden. Let's go to the garden, because they leave after Passover, they sing, and then they go to the Mount of Olives. And in the Garden of Gethsemane. What do we learn about what happened in that Garden of Gethsemane? What do we learn about Jesus there? What do we learn about the disciples?
He
What-
went to pray and they asked the disciples to be awake
Yeah,
and waiting for him, but every time, like 3 times, he come back and they were sleeping tired.
right. So he's like, I'm going to go pray, but you just stay awake and watch and be on guard, okay? Be on guard. And 3 times he came back and they were asleep. What about his prayer? What do you see about him in this situation?
Yeah, it says that he was very sorrowful and deep distress.
Yeah.
Got to a point where he was asking for this cup to be removed from him.
Right.
And then following that, he just, I think, I love this part, because to me, it just sounds like a surrendering, not my will, but yours.
Mm-hmm.
And then he just
Right.
left it there.
Right. It's like, yeah.
I had never heard before about an angel from heaven strengthened him. I hadn't ever heard that or noticed it before.
Yeah.
I was encouraged by that.
Yeah.
And God didn't really just abandon him.
Right. An angel from heaven. I noticed that the first time here too. Maybe only that Mark says it. I don't know, but
It's in Luke, actually.
Okay,
It's in Luke,
all right.
the cross-reference. And that's the first time
Right.
I've ever seen that.
right. Me too. But that is encouraging.
Are you looking at Luke?
It was in Luke
In Luke?
22,
Oh, yeah.
43 to 44. And it talks, he says where he's praying earnestly, but it said an angel from heaven strengthened him. I was encouraged by that.
Mhm.
I didn't
Yeah.
ever notice that either.
Yeah.
When I was-
No. So what does that mean for us?
God never let us alone.
Yeah, he's never going to leave us alone when we're in our deepest, darkest moments. And he's like, get me out of this. An angel comes and strengthens him.
That happened for Paul.
Yeah. So, but he finally comes to this place of it's not my will, but yours. Yours, right.
What was he asking the disciples to do with watching?
To watch, to stay awake. He said, stay awake lest
watch,
temptation,
stay awake.
lest temptation.
Maybe if they had stayed awake, he would have been betrayed. And he would have hot take.
Like, Jesus, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Wait, burgers.
Yeah.
I was confused, but
And he
who
said, watch
were
and
the
pray.
people,
Watch and pray.
ones who came with the swords and the clubs?
Okay,
The
who?
chief priests and the scribes and elders, because he had to kiss Jesus, because how did they not recognize him? They're trying to kill him, but they don't even know who he is?
It was like collective, really good.
He was, or he was his secret keeper, just like in Harry Potter.
Oh,
Yeah. So I had the same question, and I did some research on that. And because, again, because of the crowds, because of so many people being there, they didn't know where he was. They needed Judas to take them to him because they wouldn't be able to find him among those crowds. And because they're trying to do it by stealth, so with Judas saying, because it says that they occasionally went to the garden, that's where they kind of hung out. So he knew that spot. So he could take them right there and get them through the crowds. And then because it was so dark and there was a lot of people that they might not have recognized him without Judas saying, this is the one.
He's already disappeared from them in the midst of Jerusalem.
Yeah.
They've lost him.
Right, they've lost him, right.
But I have to keep reminding myself too how dark, without electricity, there were no electric lights.
Right,
strung
right,
out,
right,
Stuff like that.
right.
I mean,
And
those
this,
are lights. Yeah.
and this was late because the Passover meal didn't start until like 6. And so it was late. By the time they're in the garden, it is late and it is dark, and right, there are no street lights. So just logistically, this needed to happen. And who came with them? It says the chief priests and the Pharisees, but in other Gospels it talks about the Roman cohort. And because it was the chief priests, then Rome would have sent, because they want to go arrest him, Rome would have sent soldiers to do that. So because there was this relationship between the Pharisees and the chief priests with the political leaders.
So maybe the soldiers didn't know and didn't care.
Yeah,
So they,
they were just sent on a mission. Right,
yeah, okay.
right. So there's, but there's a lot in here that we could go on forever about, but we don't have time to do that. But just what can we get from this? What, in that garden situation, we're like, okay, we sometimes are crying out to God, take this away, but God strengthens us and says, no, just my will, my will, my will.
And I think that's the thing, a lot of times when things are hard, we pray to get out of it.
Right,
But God doesn't always take us out of it.
right,
But He can give us an angel to go through it.
right,
We
right.
can fix it anyway. We
Right.
can fix it, but
right. Because if he takes us out of it, then maybe his will isn't accomplished in the bigger picture. Yeah, the bigger picture. Because it might not be about you, it's about somebody else. So it is encouraging. We all saw this, and an angel strengthened them. That was like, this is great. And that's what God will do.
Jesus needs help.
Right. If Jesus needs help,
Yeah,
we should not be afraid to ask for help.
yeah.
Right, right.
We should feel bad if we fall short or
Right.
feel like we
Mhm.
can't do it. I mean,
Hmm.
we can pray.
Right,
And
right. And there's that whole humanity part, that's like Jesus said, stay awake, don't be, so that you're not tempted. And he said, you will all fall away. They're going to strike the shepherd, and you will all fall away. And they all said, no way, right? Peter's like, no, I'm not going to deny you. I'm not going to deny you. If I have to die for you, I will, but I'm not going to deny you.
And Peter said, uh-huh.
Yeah. And there again, that can be us in situations. We're like, I'm not going to deny Jesus, and then we do. Not verbally say I deny him, but just by our actions sometimes. So yeah, we can laugh at Peter, but that can be us. I'm not going to deny you, and then we do.
For sure.
Yeah, for sure.
It's kind of like facing death himself, with
Yeah.
his virtue.
Right.
He doesn't know that's it.
Yeah. But so there's a lot, personally that we can take from this lesson. And I think just to remember this big picture here, and all that symbolizes, and how God put in plan this for us way back here to save us. And that's a very big God, very big God, a very loving God who cares for all of us. So remember the Passover. Remember the Passover. And remember that we could be like Peter and say, I'm not going to deny him, but then on a daily basis we might. We might. Okay? Stay awake, stay alert. Stay alert. And next week we'll finish the book, see how it ends. We'll see if he actually is resurrected. Okay? We're going to see. We'll see.